All right, you guys, I'm finally able to sit down in front of the camera and record this video. It has been a long time coming, and I just realized I forgot my notes. Take two. I've just gotten out of the shower. My hair is not like super dry. So for today's video, it's going to be a little stringy, but I'm testing out a new camera setup. This time I'm actually using my Sony and not my cell phone. So the sound should be a little bit different because I'm using my mic as well. So hopefully you guys will hear everything clearly and we can use this as a setup going forward. Also, I should mention it's really hot here for November Day in Montreal. We are November 6th right now, and it's about 20 degrees outside, which is unheard of. This like literally never happens. So I do have the window open, and there is a cross draft going from my front to back door. So it might get a little noisy if the neighbor starts to turn on his leaf blower. So I'm just, hoping that that's not going to happen. So hopefully we'll be able to talk about the October-November reading vlog update, which is essentially covering all of the books that I've read from the second week of October until the second week or third week of November. So as you guys have probably surmised, because I'm relatively new to BookTube, I don't really have a schedule right now about which books I'm going to be reading for when. Also, I don't feel that I love the restriction of having to do a monthly report of which books I've read for which month because it's very restricting. I have a lot of things going on. I'm managing a family, I'm managing a business, I'm taking my things to market, and really what I have given up is like television watch time, and I've turned that into reading time. But I can't really keep up with the consumption and consumerism that has become BookTube as of late. That's not to say that everybody is doing it, but I just really need to move at my own pace. So when I do reading vlog updates, that's what they're going to be. They're just going to be like reading vlog updates. When I get to a certain amount, maybe 5 or 6 books, I will let you know what those are through a reading vlog update so that I don't feel the constriction of having to read a certain amount of books per month and then having to put up a reading vlog update for you all on a monthly schedule, because my life at this point does not allow me to do that. Maybe it will in the future, but I also don't want to take the joy out of reading by having sort of a reading marathon where I'm not really A, absorbing what the books have to offer for me, and B, I'm just kind of keeping up with the Joneses, which is not something that I really want to be doing. Essentially, I don't know if the model of reading a certain amount of books per month or having an October/November TBR and then keeping up with that is going to be realistic for me. So I hope that you guys can understand that. I will let you know which books I have completed. These books that I have behind me are just the physical print books that I have completed since about the second week of October. And right now on the date that I am filming, and the date is, it is November 6th, as I've said. And you guys are probably going to see this video at the end of November. So this is what I'm going to sort of cloister as my October, November, let's say, reads. And then when I see you guys again in December, it'll be from about this time in November to, whenever I finish that video. So I hope you guys can understand that giving a time frame for these videos, not very realistic with my current lifestyle right now. And while I do have notes for this video, I do want to touch upon a video that I was watching on BookTube this morning. A fellow Canuck by the name of Mr. Sosotris, who is based out of, I think, Alberta in Canada, did do a video that was released yesterday, November 5th, entitled Beating the Gamification of Reading. And I wanted to touch upon that video, and I'll leave that video link for you guys down below in the description, but I think it is a must-watch for anybody who is on YouTube. I think that it really touches upon and really sat with me the idea of gamifying reading in terms of like running the marathon, reading the marathon, getting your TBRs up there, getting your videos up there, reading for the sake of creating content, things like that, or for getting followers. And it just really resonated with me, and I felt that it was really good timing because I knew that I was going to be filming this video for you guys this morning. And even though I'm going to be giving you guys a summary of what it is that I've read over the past few weeks, again, it got me thinking, and I I agree with, I think his name is Josh. I'll double check for you guys. But I agree with his, with this booktuber's idea that we should be creating content and reading books for fun, for recreation, to share our ideas and talk about books with like-minded people, and not necessarily to be in some sort of a rat race, which is kind of where I think that BookTube has gone. And I certainly agree to that, because you should see my TBR cart. It's like amazing. I think I must have at least 50 or 60 books there, which I know you guys are going to laugh at me because you're going to say, oh no, I have like 100, 200. Sometimes people have 500 books. I've seen certain videos on their TBRs. And I just think that A, that's amazing. And like B, how are you not overwhelmed? Like if you're somebody who has more books than it takes to put on a cart that you need to be reading, how are you not like totally overwhelmed by that? I just don't understand. So anyway, I do want to talk to you guys about the books that I have read. So enough blah blah. This is a terrible intro. I didn't even welcome anyone to the channel, so I'm going to do that now. If you're new here, I'm Zahava. I used to make videos about small business and small business things. Now I'm making videos about books, and we're talking about bookish things. So hopefully you like to join and subscribe to the channel and like the video if you like this kind of content. I know that the intro was a little bit squirrely, but I didn't rehearse that part. So it's kind of just came from top of mind. Okay, so I may refer to my notes a little bit because I would like to sort of keep the rest of this video more or less on course. I want to do an October, November reading vlog kind of wrap up. First, I'm going to start with The Martian. Okay, so The Martian, you guys will have seen that I did a book haul on The Martian. As you can see, I don't have any tabs on this one. I didn't annotate it mostly due to the format of it because there wasn't really a lot of space to sort of write in the margins. So I did read it. I read it, and as soon as I finished it, I actually watched the movie, which I felt left out a few integral parts of the book, but we won't get into that. We can discuss that in a later video, perhaps of books versus movies comparison or something. It's just an idea that I had. But for this one, in terms of the book, I have to say that I gave this one, I think, a 4-star. A lot of people are giving it a 5-star. There were a couple of problems for me with this book. One being the science, okay? Now, I know you guys are going to say it's a science fiction. It's fine. Like, I read science fiction. I have no problem with that, with the ideas and the concepts. But what I mean by the science is all the data, all of the acronyms and abbreviations. And, you know, I'm not someone who is familiar with space exploration or astronomy or, you know, astronaut things. You know, it's not something that is in or has ever been in my purview. And as somebody who's coming to this novel based on recommendations of other booktubers, having never seen the movie before reading the book, I really didn't know what I was getting into. And there were like certain acronyms like EVA, which just were not familiar to me. Like if somebody says, oh, there's an ETA, everyone kind of knows it's an estimated time of arrival. But an EVA, I have no idea what that is. I had no idea what that was, and the author actually didn't explain it. So I had to go and Google that term, and I just wasn't happy that I had to be sort of extracted from the story to go and Google that term. And the reason that I mention it is because if I have that question, it means other readers are going to have that question. People that are being brought to this book, or this book has been suggested to them by other booktubers, or maybe they want to read the book because they saw the movie and enjoyed the movie. And for like all of the good reviews that this book has gotten, I just found that there were little instances like that where there was too much N2, CO2, oxygen, calculations, mathematics, and like I really could have done without that. I really could have done without that. And for me, it lost a star level just based on the complication of all of this scientific jargon that I just didn't connect with at the end of the day. I didn't connect with it. I found myself actually skipping paragraphs because, again, I've mentioned it before on the channel, and I'll say it again. I am a huge character reader. I'm not especially sold on books that are plot driven. And as this was a first person narrative, I was expecting, I guess, more than just like, I don't even know what I was expecting. I really wanted to like this book a lot more than I did. And that's God's honest truth. I know it's very popular. I know it's been around for a long time, but I just didn't really connect with it. So in terms of the story, I think I gave it like a 3 or a 4. I don't know. I'll put the star because I didn't actually put this book on my notes. So I'm not really sure how coherent this review is going to come out. But basically, for those of you who don't know what this is, it is about an astronaut who gets accidentally left behind on his mission to Mars. And it's how he survives or attempts to survive and try to, not die on this deserted planet. And I didn't like it as much as I wanted to. And I'm sorry to anybody who does. But the scientific things kind of went over my head a little bit. And I found that kind of alienating. No pun intended. So yeah, I really wish that I had liked this book more. And I'm sorry to people that are really into this kind of stuff and who gave it 5 stars and really loved it. But it was a little complicated and a little data centric and data heavy for me, and for that it lost points. So hopefully that came in with some sort of coherent something for you guys, but this is a book that I will very happily give away and not miss. The next book I want to talk to you guys about that I read in October is Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt, and this one I absolutely loved. For me, it was an absolute 5-star read. It did all of the things that I needed it to do. I laughed, I cried, I was turning every page trying to get to the next one. I really sympathized with the characters. I think Van Pelt did a great job in her character development. There was a good balance between characters and plot points, and just the way that the story kind of weaved together did everything that I needed it to. So I was really, really happy with this one. As you can see, I did annotate this one. If you're curious about the way my book annotations look, they kind of look like that. I have a little key in the front, and I leave the leftover tabs in there in case the person that reads the book next after me or something like that wants to add, or in case I go back and do a second read and I want to add more things, then I'm not at a loss for tabs or anything like that. So let me know if you guys do that too. So this book, for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, is a point of view omniscient narrator, and you get the points of view of 3 different entities or people. And the reason I say entities is because you get the point of view of 3 different characters. You get Toba, you get Cameron, and you get Marcellus, who is the giant Pacific octopus. A lot of people reviewing this book on BookTube or Book Talk, and also on Goodreads, have complained about the character of Cameron. And I want to talk about the character of Cameron for a second. And I just want to say that I feel like there's a little bit of neurospiciness with that character. A lot of people accuse Cameron of being kind of babyish, a man-child, things like that. But without getting too much into it, I really would like to just say that I adored Cameron because I could kind of understand where he was coming from. And that has to do with personal things that I'm not going to get into on this video, but I feel like there's been a lot of harsh judgment when it comes to Cameron's character, and I would encourage you guys to read the book and decide for yourselves if you can't be a little empathetic as to why Cameron behaves in the way that he behaves. And I think that when you read the character with that context, it becomes a little more clear why Cameron is, and I do find that he is, a very sympathetic character. With Tova, it's extremely straightforward. You understand why she behaves the way she behaves. She has lost the 3 men that mean the most to her very early on in the novel, and she is in her 70s, and she's essentially alone, kind of just making her way through and reflecting upon her life and the loves that she has lost. And Cameron, also young guy, early 30s, has a quest of his own. He wants to find out why he was abandoned as a child. I don't think that I'm giving anything away. I don't think there's any spoilers in that. So he goes on this quest to kind of find that information. And then you have Marcellus, who is a giant Pacific octopus who is nearing the end of his life, but right now he's in an aquarium, and he is, of course, a very intelligent creature who befriends Toba and Cameron, and, you know, shenanigans, I guess, ensue. And what I loved about this book the most is that the point of view character of Marcellus is really the octopus, and you get to see the story, at least the octopus's story, from his side of things, and how he interacts and views both Toba and Cameron. And I don't know, this book just went exactly where I wanted it to go. It gave me all the fuzzy, warm feelings that I wanted to have. And as I've said, I laughed, I cried. I can't recommend this book enough. I don't know if my review right now on YouTube, even despite the notes, is doing this book any justice, but I don't know. I guess I'm just really bad at book reviews. It'll get better with time. The next book that I read is called The 7 Days of Peter Crumb. Now, again, you guys can see it's not a very big book. It's not a book either that I annotated, although I will be honest with you, when I finally got into it, because I had a bit of a false start, I really did want to annotate it, but I was traveling around a lot and didn't really want to take my annotation supplies, so I didn't end up annotating it, and I low-key kind of regret it. But essentially what this book is about is clearly a man named Peter Crumb, and it has to do with his last 7 days on this planet and how he chooses to spend his time, which essentially is by basing his day's actions on the newspaper headlines. And so if there's a murder, he's going to go out and commit a murder. If there's a rape, he's going to go out and commit a rape. So it's certainly a very interesting premise. It's a very gory book. It's a horrific book. It's a very descriptive book. And it's a little twisted, if I must say so myself. But that being said, he's still a very sympathetic character. And when you get into Peter's mind, which is really easy to get into considering it's a first-person narrative, you begin to understand throughout the story why he is the way he is and why he does the things he does and what has brought him to this state where he is just going to wreak havoc on everyone and everything around him before he makes his final exit. And I thought that that was a very interesting premise. I love the idea of that, and I definitely wanted to take that ride, and I'm really glad that I did. I love the way that the author uses or juxtaposes the different voices in Peter's head. Like, I had a really easy time. I often was imagining as I was reading it that sometimes when you have a movie, you can sort of see if somebody has like two personalities, you know, when they step outside of themselves and they talk to themselves, and then the audience can kind of see the two people, often it's played by the same actor, kind of talking to each other and trying to make sense out of whatever is going on in their head. So that's kind of the feeling that you get when you read this book. It's like you can see that Peter is kind of talking to himself all the time. And it's really interesting to see what the split personalities have to say to the other in order to justify the actions that Peter, the body, is going to take. But I, for one, really loved the prose and the pacing of this novel. I know that it had some mixed reviews. People really didn't like it on Goodreads, but I feel like I can kind of understand why, because I don't know if I was really tired or just not in a good place mentally, but when I started this book, I was actually originally going to DNF it, and I was going to put it down and like never pick it up again. And then I got a good night's sleep and I went back to it a couple of days later, and then I got into it and I was flipping pages so fast and I simply like couldn't put it down. So I don't know if anyone else has ever read this book. If you have, please let me know. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. I don't know. I just really enjoyed this. It was a nice short read. Again, I'm really new to this book report thing, so I don't know if I'm telling you guys exactly what you need to know, but I would suggest that you read it and let me know what you think of it. The last print book that I finished is Everyone in My Family Has Killed Somebody. I gave this book 4 stars on my Goodreads, which to me is an excellent, excellent rating. I know that there's some other people, the reviews about this book have been kind of mixed. For me, it was a good read. I enjoyed it. I love the wry humor. This is an Australian author, so it's an Aussie book, lots of Australian references, and what I believe is also a good influx of Australian culture. And I feel like maybe a lot of the people that did didn't like this book. Either maybe they don't like a slow burn mystery. It's very Agatha Christie-esque. It's giving The Mousetrap a lot. It takes place in a ski lodge mountain resort, and of course you have a murder, and it's a family reunion, so people have to figure out who the murderer is. Is it a family member? Is it somebody else? What is all the intrigue? And yeah, I mean, it's just like your classic murder mystery, but also it's really, really funny. Like, I know that there's a lot of people that don't like a black comedy, which I kind of feel like this is. I know that the author of this book is actually a comedian. When I saw the cover of this book, I was immediately intrigued. It's something that I picked up at a thrift store. I think I paid like $3.75 for it. I read it pretty quickly. I love a book where the main character or the narrator or first person point of view, which is what this book is, actually breaks the fourth wall and speaks directly to the reader. I love that because it really pulls me in and really makes me feel like I'm a part of the action. And I did annotate this book because there were a few things that stuck out to me. And I should say, just for the record, that I was wrong. I'm so bad at sussing out who the murderer is in books like this. In any mystery, really. I'm so bad at figuring out who the person is that is the culprit. I didn't do too well at Clue when I was playing Clue either. So not a very good person in terms of deducing who the baddies are when I'm reading a mystery book, but I really did enjoy the prose and the writing, and I would definitely suggest that you guys pick up this book if you want something that's a mystery, but like also a little light as well, because the humor in this book I really resonated with, and I really enjoyed this one. Definitely merits a spot on the bookshelf. I will likely pick up the other two volumes. I know there's one that is has to do on a train, and there's another one that's like a Christmas title. So I'm going to be on the lookout for those. I probably will not buy them new, but if I find them at the thrift store, I will definitely pick them up, you know? So I'm not running to find the sequels to this book, but if I do see them at the right price, I'll pick them up for sure. Yes, rabbits. We have talked about this book and talked about this book. I have benched this book. Like, officially it's benched. I don't know if I'm going to DNF it, but I'm not in the mood to pick it up anymore. It just couldn't hold my interest. Like, it was, to me, it was like the first season of The Office, like the first 2-3 episodes. I think I had a few false starts with that series. I had to watch the first 2 or 3 episodes at least 2 or 3 times before I got myself into a mood where I was ready to watch the rest of the series. And season 1 being as tough as it is to get through, I didn't think I would make it past season 1, and then season 2 on, it was a lot better. And I'm kind of getting the same feeling from this book. I really wanted to like it. I wanted it to be so much more interesting than it was. It really was not doing it for me. It didn't have that hook. I get the feeling that the author wants so much plot points and so much action to happen that nothing actually happens. And there's no real character development. There's nothing really anchoring me to the book. I just don't care. I just don't care. I don't care what happens to anybody or anything in this book. And the only reason that I'm saying I'm going to bench it for now is because I did spend the time to annotate it a little bit, but I really feel like I kind of want to get rid of it because I don't see myself ever picking it up to finish it. So let me know what you guys think. Should I get rid of it, or should I bench it and come back to it in a few months or something? This is a sci-fi that's based on a podcast that was started back in 2017, and essentially it's about people in like a real human world that don't realize that they're in a surreal sort of game world. And when you enter into certain places or follow certain clues, you end up being kind of like absorbed by this game called Rabbids. And I feel like it had a really good premise, but it just wasn't doing it for me. Like, it didn't convince me that anybody or anything happening in this book was worth caring about. So I'm pretty sure that just now in this video, I have decided that I'm going to DNF it. And if you guys have read this book, I don't know. I'm not a fan. I actually had The Quiet Room, which is the companion to it or the sequel to this book, and I returned it to the bookstore and I got my money back because I don't know if this happens to you, but sometimes when you see a book, if you think you want to read the second one because it looks good or whatever, then you just buy them both. and because the covers look nice, or it's a certain edition or something like that. And then if the book's really good and you want to right away delve into the second one, you don't have a waiting period. You could just close up the one book and then go and read the second one, which is what I was hoping for for Rabbits in the Quiet Room. But in the end, I really didn't like this one. I didn't like it. I stopped reading at page 230, which I probably should have stopped a lot sooner, like maybe 100 pages sooner. So not a fan of this. I do like sci-fi, but the two sci-fi books that I've reviewed in this video, I didn't like. So I don't know. Like, I have read sci-fi before. I've talked about, I think, Amy Thompson before, but again, these were books that were very character-centric and not trying so hard to keep you on the edge of your seat in some sort of thrill that truly isn't necessary. At least not for me. So I guess if you guys like a sort of intriguing, plot-centric novel, this would probably be really good for you. But for me, I just don't care. I don't care what happens in this book, so I'm gonna have to unload it somehow. Okay, so some other books that I don't have with me that I wanted to talk about in this video. The first one, I just want to mention that I am reading The Princess Bride. And when I say I'm reading The Princess Bride, it's because it's sitting on my bedside table. It's the book that I go to when I need to fall asleep at night. It's something cute and cozy and funny. And once I finish it, I will let you guys know, but there could be months. So just to bring you up to speed on the fact that I'm still reading that one and have not finished that one. And if you're following me on Goodreads, then you will probably see that I'm in progress, and I will be in progress with that one for possibly months. I don't have the book with me, but I'll put the cover on the screen for you guys. I also read a short story in October called The Glace Bay Miners Museum, which is the short story that the movie Margaret's Museum is based upon. And that movie stars Helena Bonham Carter as Margaret, who basically takes you through what the coal mining life was for people out in Eastern Canada in the 1940s, and how she was affected and how people felt in that small coal mining town that the only way to make a living was to work in the mines. And you guys are probably familiar with the story. I don't want to give too much away about it, but I will say that the book was not as good as the movie. I had a lot of trouble with Margaret's character in the novella. I found that the voice of the character was hard to resonate with. It was written in a sort of colloquial tone with colloquial vocabulary that would have been relevant to people in that time period in Eastern Canada that were of Scottish descent. And I feel like the book was very, very choppy, whereas the movie gave me a nice story arc, and I was able to follow it from the point where, whereas the book kind of gave splices and bits and pieces of things that you had to kind of string together in more of a pulp fiction vein. So I don't necessarily find that I resonate really well with stories that are not presented to me in a linear fashion. I do not necessarily love jumping around from here to there to try and piece the story together in little snippets. For me, it's kind of a turn off. I don't know if you guys are the same, but the Glace Bay Miners Museum I had higher hopes for. I didn't like it so much. It's a short book, but it's definitely one that I am gonna unhaul for sure. If you like the idea of Margaret's Museum, see the movie. That's my advice. It's much better than the book. Whereas my Kindle is concerned, I did start Salt and Broom because Salt and Broom got some very good reviews, and I think I got about 4 pages in before I got really annoyed. And the reason that I got annoyed is, and I think I touched upon it another video a short while ago, is because it is a modern retelling, but it's a modern, I don't want to say modern, but I would say more it's a witchy retelling of the story of Jane Eyre, which for me was problematic because I couldn't stop replaying Jane Eyre novel and Jane Eyre movie adaptations in the back of my head while I'm trying to suspend my disbelief and immerse myself in this witchy retelling of it. And I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to get over that. I mean, I'm only 4 pages in, and again, it could be because I was tired, it could be for many reasons that have nothing to do with the writing, but for the most part, I think I'm actually going to DNF this book after the first 4 pages because Jane Eyre is my absolute favorite Victorian novel, and I can't see a world in which I can read an adaptation of that novel and not be constantly thinking about what the actual Jane Eyre story is supposed to be. And I feel like it's probably a mental block that I'm not likely to get over. And I had the same trouble with the Wide Sargasso Sea when I was forced to read that during a college year course. And I didn't love it either. And even when I was watching the movie adaptation of The Wide Sargasso Sea, I kept thinking of Jane Eyre the entire time. And it low-key kind of ruined the movie for me. It ruined the book, it ruined the movie. And I feel like Salt and Broom, despite the fact that people say it's an excellent book and it's got over like 4 stars on Goodreads and like people are talking about it on BookTube and BookTok and everything, I just don't know if I can connect with it, at least not at this point in my life. Maybe I can pick it up at a later time. I highly doubt it, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to DNF that book as well. And the reason that we're talking about it now is because the next video that I want to film for you guys is going to be actually what's currently on my Kindle. And it was going to be the 10 books that I have that are on it that I was hoping to take with me to read while I go to Australia. But I think I'm going to have to return that one and select another because I'm 100% sure I'm never going to read Salt and Broom just because I don't resonate well with any kind of adaptation of an original story. Maybe it's something wrong with me, but maybe you guys are the same. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you guys are the same as me. Like, does a retelling of Pride and Prejudice, such as Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, does that work for you? Because it really doesn't work for me. Like, I cannot get myself into that headspace no matter what I do. So, with the exception of, before I stick my foot too much in my mouth, with the exception of Clueless, okay? Clueless, the movie, which was a modern retelling of Emma. I don't know if you guys know that, but it was. And I do love Emma, but the whole setting was just basically Emma modernized, not a witchy retelling of something like Jane Eyre. If they were to do that in a modernized setting, I probably could get behind that. I could get behind that. But I think it's the mixing of the classic Victorian with the witchy theme, which is what seems to sell most people. I don't think it's selling me. I don't think it's selling me. So again, Salt and Broom, for now, it's still on the Kindle. I may pick it up at a later time, or I may just return it to the Kindle library and select something else. I haven't decided yet, but let me know what you guys think I should do, and maybe I'll wait and see some of your feedback before I make that decision. It's not like it's taking up so much space. All right. On Audible, let's talk about Audible books. There were a couple of Audible books that I read this month, or listened to this month. One of which I spoke about in another video was The Ritual Bath by Faye Kellerman. That one I DNF'd with 3 hours left on the download. It was just such a badly written book that I didn't care to even find out who the rapist was. I'm not going to reiterate what I said in a former video. You guys can go back and find that video if you want to hear what I said about it. I think it's the Which Audible Book Did I DNF video, so you guys can go check that out. I won't spend too much time talking about it in this video, but suffice it to say that Faye Kellerman, I'm never going to pick up one of your books again because that book was just so annoying that I didn't even want to finish it. So there's that. But there was an audiobook that I did really enjoy that I completed in October, and that was Paris, the memoir, Paris Hilton's memoir. I really, really, really enjoyed that one. I am flabbergasted as to how that woman survived everything that she survived. Now, I am no stranger to reading celebrity memoirs or listening to them on Audible. I will listen to them because I find them I find memoirs in general easier to consume when I'm listening to them, because then I can work and I only have to sort of pay attention because it's not like I'm going to be losing major plot points, or it's just easier for me to follow. Whereas like if I read a memoir and I actually had it in print, I would very likely probably fall asleep. So I do tend to want to listen to books on Audible more if they are memoirs or nonfiction. And in this case, in following with the trend that I listened to Mel C from the Spice Girls, I listened to Britney Spears, I listened to Rebel Wilson on Audible, and of course, in keeping with strong female characters, celebrities, and their histories, I did choose the Paris Hilton memoir as well, and I absolutely loved it. And I tip my hat to Paris for all that she has accomplished in her life. And I love that she understands that her ADHD is what landed her in a lot of situations that she's in, but also how it's helped her to navigate certain circumstances and be able to grow and strengthen herself from those circumstances. So I am really impressed with Paris. I loved it. I found that when I was listening to the memoir, there were certain chapters, especially between chapter 8 and chapter 12, that I actually had to stop listening because I was so moved. I was so like emotionally raw and scarred from the things that I was listening to that were happening to her that she had lived through, and I found them very hard to stomach, honestly. Because, as I've said, I am a very empathetic reader. I am extremely concerned with relatable characters. And it's probably why I love biography, autobiography, and things like that. You know, especially autobiography, because it really puts you into the mind of the person that you are reading about and what they were thinking and what they were doing and what their motivations are and things like that. So, or what their motivations were at the time, I should say. And like, I also want to say that I'm super grateful that this baby voice that she puts on, which is an absolute persona, was dropped for the reading of the book, because Paris does her own narration of this book, and I think it was just really important that she chose to come across as someone that was very relatable. I should mention also that like she and I are the same age. I know we look very different, but like it's easy for me, we're born the same year, to understand like where she was coming from and what the context was in terms of social media and, you know, things around that time. And I never watched The Simple Life because, like, frankly, I always thought she was kind of a ditz, if I'm honest. So I never really had like any interest in watching her while she was famous, but now she's, you know, 44 years old, or she will be 44 years old in February. And I feel like, you know, she's done a lot of her growing up, and, you know, she's a fully fledged woman now, and, you know, has built an empire, and is just, I think she's very admirable, and I admire her. And I think that she's lived through hell on earth. And she is also clearly under the pressure of having to live up to a character that she's created for herself in order to maintain her brand. And I can understand that that's not easy. So I really enjoyed her story. I encourage you all to go read it. It has excellent reviews. Even if you're not a fan of fashion or trends or influencers or anything like that, I think it's just a damn good story. It's just a damn good story. And it deserves to be heard and or read. And you should all go read the Paris memoir. All right, you guys, so finally, I'm gonna give you some other updates before we close out this video. I did find a copy of Skeleton Crew. I found it on Poshmark. Somebody was selling a lot of 6 Stephen King books. Skeleton Crew was one of them. They're kind of in shabby condition, so whenever they get delivered, which is gonna be sometime in the middle of next week, I'm going to show you guys what they look like. But I finally found a copy. I made an offer. I think they were listed at like $45 plus $12.49 for shipping, and I made an offer of $35 and the seller accepted, so I'm very excited because my copy of Skeleton Crew is on its way. I also placed another order at Book Market, so I'm waiting for those to be collected and shipped, but we may not do another book haul until a later time because I don't want to like completely flood this channel with book hauls, although I'll have to admit, like, book hauls are really fun, and I'm always so excited when I get new books, and if I can't share those new books with you, I don't know who I can share them with. So maybe we will do more book haul videos, but I'm going to try to keep those to a minimum because now, as I've said, my rolling cart has at least 50 or 60 books on it, and I really don't want it to get out of hand. Like, once my 4-tiered rolling cart is full, I will have to put myself on a book buying ban. Like, it has to happen. But before we close out this video, I did want to touch upon a couple of the challenges that I'm currently facing as a new booktuber. First of all, I don't even know if the reviews that I'm doing are coherent, interesting, or giving the information that you guys want to get. It's really just my reaction to the books that I have read, and I promise you I'm going to get better at it as soon as I get my bearings, you know, as soon as I find my groove and I understand what it is to put a good review book video out there. I'm still a little green on the topic. I don't know how these things are going to be received. I try not to be too vague, but I also try not to give you too much information because I don't want to give you guys any spoilers. So it's really just sort of finding my groove, and, you know, hopefully things will get better. Plus, I ad-lib a lot of things. Like, I do have notes. I am working off of notes, but sometimes my opinion will change on a book based on the weather. Like, it's really that arbitrary. So if I'm having a bad day, I'm going to give like a bad review. If I have a good day, I'm going to be like, maybe I was being too harsh. Maybe I should reconsider that. So these are challenges that I have. Also, we talked about it a bit at the beginning of the video, is that my time is like, it's very challenging for me to find time to read. And I don't want to turn this channel into something that is forced. So I may not be able to give you guys reading vlog updates so often, just because I don't want my entire life to be a rat race of how many books I need to read and like what is being, you know, checked off the checklist of the books that need to be done, because then it kind of takes the enjoyment out of it. Plus, I run a business. I manage a family, you know, all those things. So like, reading to me is really a luxury, and frankly, I kind of like, for the time being, to keep it at least feeling that way, because last thing I want to do is be put on a schedule and, you know, when I'm dead tired and I can't concentrate on what it is that I'm reading, and then I say to myself, but you need to get a video out there because you need to make content and you need to satisfy XYZ on the reading challenge or whatever list or upload schedule or something like that. And then what's going to happen is that I'm going to be so brain fried and so stressed that I'm not even going to be able to give you guys a good account or a true account of how it is that I feel about the books that I've been reading. And I just want to let you guys know that those are real challenges, and I feel like a lot of booktube is glamorized so that people feel like they have to keep up with that. And also, like, another challenge that I have, it's kind of a toxic trait, is that there's so many YA books being suggested to me on booktube and book talk and Goodreads and like Book Outlet and bestsellers, and like when you go to the bookstore, there's so much YA out there. I'm not a big fan of YA. If I do read any, the books that I read that are YA, I mean, I have some, but they're going to be few and far between. So I'm trying to work on it. I'm trying to work on like expanding my tolerance of YA and new adult novels. But I guess what I want to know is, what kinds of challenges do you guys face as readers? Is it a scheduling thing? Is it not finding the right kind of books for your taste? If you're a content creator, do you feel that you have to keep up with all the other content creation that is going on out there? Like, I want to know, are there any genres that you tend to gravitate towards or stay away from? And what are your reasons why? And also, how does your regular life affect your reading schedule? Like, if you know that you need to be doing something like taking your kids to the doctor or things like that, like, how do you fit reading into your life so that it doesn't become a chore and so that you still enjoy it? So anyway, I just want to thank you guys all for coming to hang out with me today. I know this video was terrible, and even though it was loosely scripted, it probably didn't give you much in terms of information. I know that I am dreading the editing process and the playback process of this video, and I wonder if I shouldn't just scrap all of my footage and record it again a second time to something that is more aesthetically pleasing and coherent. But then I think to myself, that would not be honest of me. That would not be honest of me in terms of like my growth and where I'm starting from and where I might be on booktube in a year from now. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to end the video here. Thank you so much for coming by to spend some of your time with me today. I hope you enjoyed the content, and I'll see you again in the next one. Ciao for now.